I've seen a lot of people talk or kind of freak out over this force majeure clause,
Yeah.
about how pretty much in extraordinary circumstances you don't have to pay rent essentially, right? You use a force majeure clause in a lease.
Hmm.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Is
Hmm.
now a time to, could you use that force majeure clause now? Is that an acceptable time to use it?
Yeah. So let's talk about what a force majeure clause. So first and foremost, a force majeure clause has been around for probably hundreds of years. It is in every major contract. It is a part of. It's frankly a part of the stock market, right? One of the things that you will see in option trading, like options on soybean and or futures contracts. Sorry, futures contracts like soybeans and flour and oranges and all these other things, is if there is some external outside event like a hurricane, for example, that comes in and wipes out all the oranges in Florida. If you had a contract for oranges from California, you could claim force majeure because the supply demand imbalance would be out of whack through unnatural causes. That's what a force majeure
Mm,
clause is. Basically calling a timeout. Previous contract is null and void because of this outside external, very unlikely event, but it happened. So where I think you're hearing this is there are force majeure clauses in leases, typically in office leases, in retail leases, and all of that. And yeah, if you are a retailer that had a force majeure clause on your lease and you were inside a shopping mall, and oh, by the way, the shopping mall has been shut for 85 of 90 days, you bet your ass you should be claiming a force majeure clause. Absolutely. Where some people are taking these force majeure clauses is to residential. I have leases with my tenants, and I am not aware. I haven't read my lease in detail in several years, but I do not recall a force majeure clause in any residential lease. Um, I'm sure they're out there, and maybe they'll be added in the future. But as of today, force majeure it's in commercial contracts. It
mm,
is in futures contracts. It is a business term that smart business people use, because really force majeure is something out there that you really can't get insurance for, or if you got insurance for it, it would be ridiculously expensive. That way, you can still continue to do business. So I think force majeure clause is contract law. It's a part of contracts. It is something that certainly should be deployed if you're a retailer and the mall is shut, as an example, or an office building, right, where you have office space, but now nobody can come to your office. You should use it. Yeah, it's a tool that should be used, and I bet you it's in a lot more contracts going forward for sure.
mm, mm.